Dele was a block mason with a reputation that carried across Port Harcourt. Contractors spoke of him with respect. His blocks were firm, his walls straight, his work clean. He had built his life with his hands, each wall another testimony to his skill. He was young, unmarried, and lived alone in a modest house not far from Mile 3. For years, he had labored for small contracts, praying for the day a job would come that would change everything. That day seemed to arrive one Monday morning. Dele had just finished eating gari and groundnuts when his phone rang. The caller's voice was firm, almost urgent. "Can you be on site by this evening?" the man asked. Dele's heart leapt. This was the kind of breakthrough he had been waiting for. The caller spoke of a job worth millions, enough to set him up for life. He did not ask how the man got his number. He did not ask the location. Excitement blinded him. He said yes, quickly, almost desperately. "Where are you now?" the caller asked again later that morning. "At home," Dele replied. He gave his address without hesitation. Within half an hour, a black Jeep pulled up in front of his house. Its tinted windows gleamed under the late morning sun. Dele, with his work bag ready, hurried outside. The driver rolled down the window just slightly, revealing dark glasses that hid his eyes. "Enter." Dele obeyed without question. The moment he sank into the leather seat, a strange heaviness pressed against his eyelids. He tried to stay awake, to look at the men beside him, but his eyes betrayed him. Sleep swallowed him whole. He woke to the crunch of gravel under tires. His head felt heavy, like he had been drugged. As the gate of a massive compound creaked open, his eyes fluttered wide. The Jeep rolled in. What he saw made his chest tighten. Before him stood an enormous uncompleted church building, its skeletal pillars stretching like silent giants into the sky. A high fence circled the compound, locking in the mystery. Men in black glasses and nose masks surrounded him as he stepped down. None of their faces were visible, only the glint of lenses reflecting the harsh sun. Dele's hands trembled as he glanced at the pillars. Something about them felt wrong, too thick, too alive. Yet he followed as he was led inside. His boots echoed against the bare concrete floor, a hollow sound that seemed to whisper back at him. "Mix sand and cement," one of the masked men ordered, voice flat, emotionless. Dele looked around. Other workers were already at it, faces drawn, eyes swollen with fear. Buckets clanged, shovels dug, water splashed. The atmosphere was thick, not with dust alone, but with something darker, heavier. As Dele bent to mix his portion, he heard it. A cry. At first faint, almost like the wind moaning through cracks. Then louder, pleas, whimpers, groans. He froze, his hands stiff on the shovel. The sound was coming from the pillars. Heart hammering, he moved closer, pretending to adjust the mixture. And then he saw it, through a tiny gap in the wooden casing of the pillar, an eye. A human eye, red with tears, staring out at him in terror. Dele stumbled back, bile rising in his throat. The cries became unbearable now that he had noticed them. Each pillar groaned with life, muffled voices calling for help, begging for mercy. "What is this?" Dele whispered, his voice shaking. One of the men in black stepped forward, pressing a cold hand against his shoulder. "Walk." Dele wanted to scream, to run, but guns hung from the men's sides, and their silence was more threatening than words. His legs felt like lead as he lifted the shovel again. Tears blurred his vision as he poured cement into the casing. The cries inside turned frantic, the pillar shaking slightly against the force of bound bodies struggling for air. "God," Dele muttered under his breath, voice breaking. "God, I am innocent of this blood. Forgive me. Forgive me." But still, he walked. With every bucket of mixture, another human life was buried alive, their screams fading as cement filled their lungs and darkness swallowed them whole. Pillar after pillar, more than 20 in total, became tombs of the living. And Dele's heart cracked with each one. Some workers wept openly, their tears mixing with the cement. Others worked mechanically, as though their souls had already left them. But none dared to stop. The masked men stood guard, faceless judges over the slaughter. By dusk, the cries had fallen silent. The pillars stood tall, seemingly ordinary to the eye, but to Dele, they throbbed with horror. He knew now what this church truly was, a monument of blood, raised on human sacrifice. And it was being built in the name of God. When the last mixture was poured, one of the men approached Dele and pressed a thick brown envelope into his palm. The weight of the money felt like lead. "Payment, as agreed," the man said flatly. Dele stared at it, disgust twisting his stomach. The jeep appeared again, waiting like a silent predator. Too weak to resist, he climbed inside. And as before, the moment he sat down, sleep seized him. He awoke at his own doorstep, the envelope still clutched in his hand. The jeep was gone. The street looked normal, children playing, women hawking food, men chatting on corners. But Dele felt like a stranger in his own life. Then it broke. The dam inside him shattered. He staggered into his compound, tore the envelope open, and flung the bundles of cash into the air. "Blood money," he screamed. "Blood money." His voice cracked with grief. He fell to the ground, weeping, clawing at the soil as though trying to bury the memory. Neighbors rushed out, alarmed. "Dele! What is it? What happened?" Between sobs, he told them. He told them about the jeep, the men, the church, the cries in the pillars. He told them how he poured cement over living souls, how their screams would haunt him forever. His words stumbled out in anguish, his body shaking. The neighbors wept with him. Mothers covered their mouths, fathers shook their heads, children clung to their parents' legs. But no one knew which church it was. No one knew the pastor who owned the land. The job, the men, the jeep, all had vanished like shadows. That night, Dele lay awake, staring at his ceiling. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard the cries again. He saw the eye in the pillar. He smelled the cement. He tasted his own tears. And in the silence of his room, a thought carved itself into his mind: be careful who you call your pastor. Be careful where you worship. Not every altar is raised to God. From that day, Dele never looked at a church building the same way again. Every pillar he saw seemed to whisper. And every time he touched sand and cement, he remembered the voices buried alive within those walls. He had built many things in his life, but nothing had ever broken him like the Church of Silent Cries.